I'm Sandra Bolte. My pronouns are she and her, and I am grateful to be a member of the Sunday service team. The opening words this morning, The Hero Path by Joseph Campbell. We have not even to risk the adventure alone, for the heroes of all time have gone before us. The labyrinth is thoroughly known. We have only to follow the thread of the hero path. And where we had thought to find an abomination, we shall find a God. Where we had thought to travel outward, we will come to the center of our own existence. Where we had thought to be alone, we shall be with all the world.
Anyone want to come forward today? Oh my gosh, my wonder box is unlocked. Let me lock this real quick. You want to? Okay, well, let's let our friends come forward. Well, I know you like opening it. Okay, why don't you open it? There we go. Let her open it. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Do you want to hold it out and show everyone? You guys want to hold it out? Okay. Oh, do you recognize anyone in that picture? What's that good looking guy there in the front? You were looking at other people. That's fine. Whatever. That's me, and that's my wife, Hattie. We'll pass it around. I think that would be a good way to do that, okay? You want to go hand it to someone in the front, and then they can pass it around? Oh, wait, let's show Matilda, too. Over here. Want to see? And then maybe when you're done looking at it, you could hand it to this man right here in the front. Right there. So that is a picture from a particular can anyone guess if you saw it from far back? Yeah. What was that from? That was the day you called me to be the minister of this congregation. Boy, was that a long time ago. You see some faces on there. Whether it's your faces, you say, that was me. And then you see some other faces, and some of those people have either moved away or maybe have died. Some of the children are like, that's not what they look like now. We've had quite a journey. But one of the things I like about that picture, it's still up. There's a bigger version that's on the hallway as you go out the west door, is that it reminds me of just how amazing this community is. And you know why it's so amazing? Is that some of you weren't even here yet. And now it's even more amazing because you're here. It was amazing back then. It was amazing before that when people that people told stories about people that had passed on or had moved even before I arrived. And it was amazing then too. And it reminds me just how important having community is. So today we're talking a little bit about something called superheroes. I'm not feigning forgetfulness. That was actually me doing that. Do you know what a superhero is? What's a superhero? What is it? They save the day. Now, me having a picture of me in the congregation does seem a little parallel, but what it really, and I'm going to talk about that in the sermon a little bit later. But something I've been thinking about, well, let's name a couple of superheroes. Any superhero favorites? What was that? Your mom. Oh my God. Oh, thank you. Any other superheroes? Yeah. Wonder Woman. Yeah. Oh, we got Wonder Woman. Any other favorites? Maybe not a big superhero group. Miss Marvel. Excellent. All right. We got three women off the bat. Any other superhero? Which one? Green Arrow. Okay. Deep cut for those who are following along. I love it. So there's lots of superheroes. Anyone ever see Black Panther? We talked about that a couple. Okay, excellent. Very well trained. So there's a lot of superheroes, and there's been superheroes for generations. And some of them are in comic books on paper. Any of you have any comic books from your childhood, or anyone watch any superhero movies or television shows like on Disney or something? Okay, so there's a lot of different superheroes out there, but you know what I'm sort of really over? I'm over superheroes. And you know what I'm more into right now? Super communities. You're like, what's that? A bad marketing campaign, but I'm going for it. So what I think what I think is important is not so much superheroes, but super communities, because that's where the real strength and beauty and the saving nature of our human capacity is. When we have a community where it's not one person who can save the day, but a whole community who can work together and make the world a little better. Sometimes your families are like little tiny super communities, or sometimes your extended family or your friendship. Any of you like have friends on the playground? You're kind of like little superheroes together. Yeah, okay. And sometimes in our friendship circles, or even a work team can be times getting along and working together and making things better, working on projects together. Or sometimes it's interfaith partnerships. It can be a bit of an alliance, working together to make the world more loving and welcoming. And I think what's important here is that, and if you get a chance to look at that picture, we see all of those faces of people who each lived or are living amazing lives, heroic lives, doing really beautiful things. And even though we might not know all the stories, or we might not listen to each of them talk as much as one person you might in that picture, all of those people are super. And that's what makes this community a super community, one that we can continue to make super together, okay? Now, I think, is today ice cream day? Is today ice cream day? Oh my gosh. I think some of you might be making ice cream, or maybe the older kids are making ice cream. I thought it came from the grocery store. Well, we'll find out. And I think we're getting to have some after this service. So we're going to sing our children and youth out to their classes. And I can't wait to have ice cream after service. So let's sing them out.
Growing up, my two brothers were fans of Superman and Mighty Mouse. From a distance through them was my only experience with superheroes. The superhero would get a call about a bad guy and go have a protracted battle and kill him. It never appealed to me. For one thing, I was not a fan of fighting. One of my brothers used to hit me a lot. Wasn't fun. Now, if any of the superheroes were women, I might have been a little more inquisitive. But that didn't happen, and I found the superheroes to be a big bore. I've always been way too practical for that. I'm never going to walk into a phone booth and transform myself into something else, so why waste my time? I'd rather go play in the creek. I was much more interested in looking for real live heroes, especially women. I wanted real people doing real things to make the world better. I found them in people like Mother Teresa and Eleanor Roosevelt, and a priest at my church, and later in Princess Diana. They addressed real world problems. They were interested in social justice, showing love, taking responsibility, and personal sacrifice. Helping the marginalized here and around the world. Seeing them raise people up seemed like a much better thing to focus on. That, to me, is a hero worth emulating. There were not a lot of models that a young gay girl could see herself in. Real people modeling love was super influential to me. Now, as I look back, fighting a new bad guy every week, it never had any lasting effect. There are plenty of bad guys to last a lifetime, and it never addresses the systems that keep producing them. However, I was struck by Octavia Butler's vision of a better world after the apocalypse. I never saw myself in any book, TV show, or movie either, but it never occurred to me to write myself in. I didn't have the talent to do that anyway. So as I grew up, it became very clear to me that there were no heroes out there that were going to save us from our bad guys. John Kennedy couldn't do it. Barack Obama could give us some temporary relief, but all the good easily could be overturned by another bad guy. If we want cleaner, safer, just world, it's up to those of us who care about these things to make it happen. Maybe not maybe not in the broader world, but certainly within our circle of influence. I sometimes believe Columbus might be able to get us close to a caring and just and inclusive community. We can all have a voice here, and there are many volunteers who care. It is up to us. As the poet June Jordan wrote, we are the ones we've been waiting for. So we keep pushing the boulder up the hill, and at some point, we just might find ourselves at the top, at the tipping point.
We have one reading today. It's also a video. It's kind of fun, getting a little multimedia here. So we'll start that in just a second. We had a opening words from Joseph Campbell. Anyone ever read or know that name, Joseph Campbell? Well, we're going to learn a little bit more about Joseph Campbell and sort of his kind of one of his signature ideas about the hero's journey. It's a little animated version to help us kind of visualize it. Enjoy.
What do Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo all have in common with the heroes of ancient myths? What if I told you they are all variants of the same hero? Do you believe that? Joseph Campbell did. He studied myths from all over the world and published a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, retelling dozens of stories and explaining how each represents the monomyth or hero's journey. So, what is the hero's journey? Think of it as a cycle. The journey begins and ends in the hero's ordinary world, but the quest passes through an unfamiliar, special world. Along the way, there are some key events. Think about your favorite book or movie. Does it follow this pattern? Status quo, that's where we start. 1 o'clock, call to adventure. The hero receives a mysterious message, an invitation, a challenge. 2 o'clock, assistance. The hero needs some help, probably from someone older, wiser. 3 o'clock, departure. The hero crosses the threshold from his normal, safe home and enters the special world and adventure. We're not in Kansas anymore. 4 o'clock, trials. Being a hero is hard work. Our hero solves a riddle, slays a monster, escapes from a trap. 5 o'clock, approach. It's time to face the biggest ordeal, the hero's worst fear. 6 o'clock, crisis. This is the hero's darkest hour. He faces death and possibly even dies, only to be reborn. 7 o'clock, treasure. As a result, the hero claims some treasure, special recognition, or power. 8 o'clock, result. This can vary between stories. Do the monsters bow down before the hero, or do they chase him as he flees from the special world? 9 o'clock, return. After all that adventure, the hero returns to his ordinary world. 10 o'clock, new life. This quest has changed the hero. He has outgrown his old life. 11 o'clock, resolution. All the tangled plot lines get straightened out. 12 o'clock, status quo, but upgraded to a new level. Nothing is quite the same once you're a hero. Many popular books and movies follow this ancient formula pretty closely, but let's see how well The Hunger Games fits the hero's journey template. When does Katniss Everdeen hear a call to adventure that gets the story moving? When her sister's name is called from the lottery. How about assistance? Is anyone going to help her on her adventure? Hey, Mitch. What about departure? Does she leave her ordinary world? She gets on a train to the capital. Okay, so you get the idea. What do you have in common with Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo?
So I've been looking forward to this month's super duper epically fantastic spring sermon series. That's the name. For some time now. Isn't that a great title for a series? Superheroes. Duper rhymes with super. epically fantastic, for the epics and fantasies, for the great mysteries and wonders as told through science and speculative fiction and wonders, or on the printed page or on the silver screen, or even right here in real life. But what is real? Whoa, that is deep. Seriously, some of these stories, though, these super duper epically fantastic stories are so ingrained in our imaginations and cultures that they impact our lives and our living in real ways. In that sense, something can be fiction and oh so true and convicting of our hearts and minds at the same time. For those who weren't here or who haven't watched the recordings, or any of us who need a refresher of the past 2 weeks, let me give you a quick one. 2 weeks ago, we explored the force of love that is within each of us, which we need in order to foster alliances and be the resistance we need to be in the face of the empire that surrounds us. That's Star Wars, if it isn't clear. Last week, we traveled to the worlds of Afrofuturism and the invitation Octavia Butler, among many others, offer to not only build the world we dream about, but to dream as well. To truly dream, to dream big, to dream until it hurts, to dream until we experience the dawn on the other side of that awesome, sometimes frightening world we envision. Next week, we will boldly go where few have gone before, into the space out beyond our inner spaces to the outer space of our living, where we can and must move to make meaning and connection so that we may collectively experience a true peace and freedom. Today, however, I must acknowledge the elephant in the room, or at least in the comic book or movie theater, really truly anywhere we seem to turn these days. I'm speaking, of course, of superheroes, as the super duper epically fantastic spring sermon series name begins. Superheroes. And yet, even with Marvel and DC, with new original movies and TV shows and reboots of characters from long ago, what's clear is that superheroes may have never gone out of style nor left our popular cultural imagination. Instead, they remain in the shadows and in the bright blue sky. They return in the darkness just before the dawn, that darkest hour, and save us from our own nightmares just before we awaken once more to this waking dream. I wanted to spend one service just on superheroes because they take up a lot of space in our religious and moral imagination as human beings. As Joseph Campbell argues in his book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, humans have a tendency to look for the hero beyond themselves and at times within themselves. But ultimately, humans for millennia have held an abiding belief in the cyclical journey of the hero, the hero's journey, the story of the monomyth that goes from life to death, and through that great unknown, rise again. The hero becomes reborn and stronger than ever. We discussed last month about the phoenix that rises from the ashes, or you could look to Orpheus, who descends to the underworld to bring his wife Eurydice back from death. Or, as the video we just watched showed, characters like Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo Baggins all make the hero's journey in their own stories. So why do we resonate with these types of stories so much? Well, in part, I believe it is because we see ourselves in these characters, not fully, but partially. Or at least we see redeeming qualities in these stories and the journey the hero undertakes. At the same time, we see a distance between us and them, between our own longing or sense that we need to make the journey, a journey, many journeys in this lifetime, and what we're actually maybe doing. Each day, like a journey around those 12 steps from the ordinary to the extraordinary, back full circle again. Wasn't that the name of Bilbo Baggins' story of his journey, there and back again? So we live in a bit of a paradox where we see ourselves in these characters that face challenge and breakthrough, trial and triumph, and also feel distant from them. That's not me. Like we are unable to truly tap into their fill in the blank, courage, resilience, love, etc. When we lean into the second part of this paradox, we begin to see why heroes become idolized, not just in the modern meaning of idol, like the American Idol, but as idols of glorification, idols of envy, idols that we long to be, but at this same time are just grateful that they exist. I think in that sense, there is a trap that comes from looking to or for superheroes in our lives and throughout history. Yes, there is a bone deep need for looking beyond ourselves, for those who we can emulate, follow, and learn from in this life. The moral living and teachings of ancient prophetic leaders like the Buddha and Jesus, like Mother Earth, and modern innumerable heroes, whether religious or secular, political or esoteric, on the grid, off the grid, known to all or known just to you, these teachers, these heroes shape our lives and our living. That's good. We need that. The gap, like with most things, is in our moderation and our covenantal relationship with these figures, these concepts, these things, past or present or eternal. When we look solely beyond ourselves to the caped crusader, the wonderful woman or women who lasso justice and bring about peace, our posture for living is akin to the old-timey damsel in distress tied to the train tracks as popularized in the 1867 Victorian melodrama, Under the Gaslight. You can picture the mustache, right? The fact that the word gaslight is in the name of this play in and of itself feels worthy to consider and give you pause. But we are not tied to the tracks. We are not awaiting our hero, our savior, or I'm not. And we're definitely not waiting for a man. I've heard that. Being a hero is different than expecting heroic behavior from those we love and those we care about and those who might come into our lives. There's a difference between being a hero and making that their very, or being heroic and being their very identity, being a hero. That little difference between hero and heroic matters in our imagination and how we live. Let me name a second part of the trap. When we look within ourselves for the hero within, for the heroic capacity at our very essence of being human, of having that spark of the divine within us, we may feel like we are moving in the right direction, that we might say, hey, why am I on these train tracks? I got to get up. There's a train coming. It is true that this self-empowerment is important to the self-liberation and the collective liberation we can experience from seeking our freedom from singular sources beyond us, or from one wellspring, or for just one book or one teacher. But in addition to this, we remain stuck in this search for heroes in isolation, whether in our singular self or in the singular self of another. In this way, the trap is that the hero is neither the one beyond us or the one within us, but it is the manyness that surrounds and is us. The superheroes, what makes it super is not they are one, or many ones, but that they are one among many. It's in that sense that I feel we experience our own sacredness the most when we are in proximity to other people and their unique beauty and gifts and the journey that they are on. Said differently, I think we experience the super duper epically fantastic nature of existence when we come together in community, in super communities, communities that are super, super duper, because when we do so, we are realizing that our resilience, our courage, our love is supercharged by our connection with one another. The Alliance in Star Wars, the Justice League in DC, the Fellowship in Lord of the Rings. These are super communities of heroic individuals finding their voice and agency together and choosing to act for the good of all. Let me try to wrap this up together with a couple examples too. We've talked a lot so far about impacts of the search for the hero within the self. I want to take two other vantage points. First, the hero beyond, especially as seen in the political sphere of our lives, and then the hero among, as in how we think about the hero in our congregational settings, about the idea of superheroes here at UUCCI. Okay, so first let's explore the hero beyond us in the political world of our lives. Throughout time, there have been attempts and some more successful than not to position the political leader as the hero that can save us from all our problems. This is not new information. In fact, throughout history, the king or pharaoh, the emperor or the president has been viewed as a god or godly, which is part of that slippery slope I mentioned earlier. We see how Constantine married the Roman Empire with Christianity and what followed. We see how our current president has become a near cult-like god who can do no wrong, no matter how much wrong is unfolding right before us. But lest we think the superhero trap in the political sense is just done for nefarious reasons by nefarious people, consider the way many liberal and progressive people saw the election of President Obama in 2008. Trust me, I saw it. I was in Grant Park the night he gave his acceptance speech. There was this euphoria of moving beyond the racism that has so long shaped our country's founding and history. Remember those naive days when we imagined a post-racial America? I don't even know if that was a term before that. I'm sure it was, but that was such a wild time looking back now. Oh, if our younger selves could see us. Well, clearly, despite the historic election and re-election and major strides on certain societal issues, there was an undeniable over-reliance on President Obama being the change we dreamed about. Well, he was the change. Many were lulled back to sleep in the peaceful hope, being tied to the railroad tracks. There we were. It was a thing. Oh, I'm sorry, I did the wrong syntax there. Many were lulled back to sleep in the peaceful hope that being tied to the railroad tracks was a thing of the past. Today, we are finding a new form of collective heroism. Through initiatives like Columbus Community United, Bartholomew County Indivisible, the NAACP, Rise Up Columbus, Hoosier Action, and the Columbus Interfaith Campus. All local embodiments of grassroots organizing that will seek the change and build the new world awaiting no president or king or government to make so. What about at the congregational level? What about the superhero trap plays out here at UUCCI? Well, let's think about that for a second. I used a word earlier in my sermon that relates directly to our history as a congregation. Do you recall? The word was fellowship, as in the fellowship of the ring. This congregation was founded as a fellowship. It was even your name for a long time, which was a movement mostly in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s throughout Unitarian Universalism, where completely lay-led groups of people started UU communities across the country. It was called, fittingly, the Fellowship Movement. Now, this community was one of those, and on May 1st, 1967, became the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Bartholomew County. For 21 years, many of you gathered in community to be community, to build and foster the community you dreamt about. For a generation, this congregation was entirely lay-led until, as your story goes, you hired your first quarter-time minister. Got to start somewhere. The Reverend Roger Birchhausen, who happens to be my father-in-law. That's long other stories. Well, he wasn't my father-in-law in those days. I was just being born. But over the 1990s and 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, ever since, you have had these ministers, first part-time, then full-time. And what is true is that even when you started hiring and then calling ministers to serve this congregation, you never lost that fellowship identity fully, which is that at the heart of who you are as a community is a loving group of lay people of all ages seeking to build the world you dreamt was possible and still dream is possible. You never lost that dream. You didn't defer that dream or abdicate it to a minister or to the UUA. You were the keepers of that possibility of peace and love to flow like a river and hold us all like an ocean. At the same time, it can be easy to look to the minister for guidance and leadership. That is normal and healthy. We are professionally trained. We feel a call to ministry and to serve and to be ministers in communities like this one, as do other religious professionals, whether they work with children and youth, whether they work with musicians, or whether they help our administration run more smoothly. In times of stress, though, and uncertainty, sometimes reliance on ministers can be heightened. Our seeking resolution from times of adaptive or unprecedented challenge can get us longing for a hero, or at least heroic leadership, to get us through. In these times, it can be easy to slip into that seeing the minister as a superhero. But as we've named earlier, that can decenter the community and place the singular figure of the superhero in the middle. But I'm not the center of this congregation. I am not a superhero. You are the congregation. You are what makes the community super, and dare I say, super duper. Which leads me to wonder about what it means for us to strive to be a community of superheroes, a super community where connection and learning happens. Whereas a super community, we collectively have heroic acts of kindness and love, of courage and resilience, where empathy and welcome is what we do together and beyond these walls, and what we share to all those who we can engage in alliances with, to be in league with, for the celebration of love and work for justice in our community. In this sense, whenever a new person walks through the door, we can see not the next superhero who can save the day, who can save us, but someone who seeks a super community that works to make real a world that once seemed only possible in our dreams or in comic books or in the minds and writings of people like Octavia Butler, to make that real. Indeed, when we come to see our work as fostering a super community, we remember that we have never been singular, but have always lived in diverse, pluralistic ways, with that beauty of multiplicity present in who we are, and importantly, who we are together. Over the decades, we have had amazing lay leaders, ministers, and other religious professionals who have come to help guide this super community through its horizon challenges and opportunities. What a gift each of them have been. I wish we had more time. And while I believe deeply they each have had a spark and continue to have a spark of divine within them, while we each are a glimpse of the divine, they and we were and are almost certainly humans. We are of this earth. and of this land. We breathe as one the same air and drink the same water, and together we experience the hardships and the joys, those simple and those extraordinary. We are mortals, and that is a blessing. For in our mortality, we are able to create something beautiful together, a super community where all can learn and thrive, a learning community where we can charge up our minds and our hearts and our hands to love this world without abandon and work for justice for all the days that are ours to have. What a gift and a burden that is ours to do. We can avoid the traps of the superhero and still do heroic acts, small and large, that make our community and world super duper epically fantastic. And no matter how long that journey is or how muddy and rough it becomes, we can know deep within our hearts and this community that we take that path not alone, but together in love. May it be so, and amen.